folks. Hey, folks. We are going to continue working on martial powers today. Nice. Give me a second to check my signal, go through my intro spiel. If you're watching this after live stream in the future, skip forward like 2 minutes, and you'll see us diving into this. So first, let me check my signal, make sure we're coming through okay. Mic check, 1, 2, 3, yada yada. Okay. Yeah, sounds like we're doing okay. So let's see. Blip, 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 blip. I'm going to do my intro spiel here real quick, and then we'll get to work. So, hey, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing games. I illustrate them and then publish them online. I've been focusing my attention on Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition for the past 5 years. I've been publishing the work that I create in the on the DMsGuild. You can see here on screen a number of book covers and bundles that I've created that are linked in the description down below. All the stuff that I produce has extensive free previews. So if you're normally here checking out the artwork and the pixels that I push, there's probably about 150 different illustrations in the books that are linked down below. If you're here for D&D content or 5e game design ideas, the stuff that I build is meant for both players and DMs. I run a campaign from level 1 to 20 in about 200 to 250 hours from level 1 to 20. And so the stuff that I build is either things that I want to run, I build because they work in the campaign that I'm currently running, or I'm planning a campaign that would benefit from the ideas that we create here as, mechanics. So give me a second here. Post, pop. Cool. That's all taken care of. Let's knock this out of the way. And go over here. We'll clear this out. I've just posted that I'm live on Twitter. So if you are on the Twitter X platform still, I'm at Phil Kearney. I post illustrations and notifications when I go live. So you can always get notification that way if you're interested, plus see some of the artwork that I produce. Best way to get notifications is, of course, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon here on YouTube to always get notifications when I'm live. I'm live 6 days a week, Monday through Friday in the morning, doing Spelljammer ship art, which you can see here. This book isn't published yet, but we're building it right now, so it can be on the DMsGuild. I also built this color mana spell point variant rules for the Magic the Gathering enthusiasts out there. I am definitely one of them. Strixhaven, Ravnica, Theros, Zendikar, anything else that's coming down the pipe from Wizards in the future for use in D&D. The bundle that we have down below is a mana system that allows you to use color mana instead of spell slots or the spell points that are haphazardly offered in the Dungeon Master's Guide. This is a better spell point system that uses color mana language. It's also, all of these books, linked down below, extensive free preview. So, but these books only currently cover spellcasting. So the Martial Powers project that we're working on is going to be the rest of the classes, the Barbarian, Fighter, Monk, Paladin, and Ranger, as well as options for Warlock and Artificer. All 7 of those classes will have alternate spell point magic system that can also use color magic or elemental magic like The Last Airbender, or can just use universal points, kind of like just generic key or just generic spell points. There's these different magic paradigms that you can use to express the kind of campaign flavor that you want, but it's all been rooted with the intention of having all 13 classes use the same mana system using colors, so that any kind of Magic the Gathering settings like Strixhaven or anything like that, Ravnica, you can always create characters with color identities to more align with the college or their god or the guild that they're a part of, and to give a visual language to the spells that you're casting using the Magic the Gathering 5 color mana system: white, blue, black, red, green. So we're not going to dive deep into color mana mechanics on today's episode. Right now we're focusing specifically on just the tech that goes into managing a mana pool. Color mana, elemental magic, that's a tack-on narrative system that you can place on top of the generic spell point systems that we already have in the that we've already been implementing here for the past 85 episodes. This is episode 86. For those that want to, here's the documents that we've been using And the Martial Powers playtest content, open playtest content, it's on Google Drive. If you want to get access to that as well, you can click into playtest content and early looks on my Patreon here at Phil Kearney. And if you just scroll down to see, here's the Command Guilds and Kingdoms playtest content that you can look at. Here's a link through to the color mana system that I was just showing you. Some other article content, Eldraine conversion guide, an article about the 4 tiers of play. Since I run campaigns from level 1 to 20 in about 200 hours, I have a lot of comments about running high-end games. Now, playtest content for Martial Powers. YouTube stream. If you click here on this YouTube stream, it'll take you right here, right now. Hi. We've got the 85 or now 86 episode playlist that we have on my YouTube channel at Phil Kearney. You can check out the evolution of the game and the thought processes that go into it. But more importantly, you can click on this Martial Powers link, and it'll take you to that same document that I just showed you here. For you, it's going to be a read-only document, but it is a 78-page document with absolutely everything that we're playing with. None of it is the official final language yet. I haven't hired an editor yet. Once we do and we finalize you can see me building books in the morning, Monday through Friday stream with the Spelljammer artwork that I'm doing. We already built that book, and now we're just dropping art pieces into all the spots on the pages that are open. We'll be going through that same process here with the Martial Powers system once we get there. Right now, we have to finish all the conversions for all the different classes. If you scroll down here, we've got the Barbarian, and then we have all the different paths that are translated using the power system that we're using. We've already translated all of the fighter as well here, and all the subclasses for fighter we've already finished. You can look at all this stuff with me right now in real time if you just click into that document I just showed you. We've started last week. We already finished the Rogue. We've already finished the Ranger and the Paladin. We've already finished Artificer and Warlock. The only thing that we have left to do right now is to circle back around and take another look at the Monk to make sure that it's building the way that we want to. And so we're doing revisions to the Monk as we go along through this process. But while we were going through that, let me scroll down and find where we are at with the Monk. We had some change. So we haven't visited Paladin, Ranger, or Warlock in about 4 months. So we came back to make revisions to the text that we have in here, and technology for the Martial Powers channeling system has advanced considerably since we visited this last. So last week, episode 85, when we dived into the Monk, I wasn't happy with the mana mechanics that we had implemented for him. So I burned some brain hours this week and created new concepts that I'm looking forward to playtesting. Coincidentally, playtesting from level 3 to 7. We're going to have that in the new year. I'm going to put together a hex crawl campaign. People that are $1 or more contributors to my Patreon will have first right of refusal for what day of the week we'll run of the options that are available to me as a DM. And for those that can match up with the date that we'll be running it, if you're a Patreon member, you'll have the first right to a seat at the table. And then if there's open seats, then we'll just have an open call for anyone else to be able to fill in gap. If I end up having more Patreons more patrons that want seats at the table than what we have available, then we'll just do a raffle system on a week-by-week basis to see who's in and who would skip that week. So if you think this stuff is cool and you're interested in, you're welcome to check out the stuff here again with a read-only document, or to dive into the Patreon and throw $1 my way and be on the inside track to messing around with this stuff. But it's already all built out from level 1 to 20 for everything except for the monks. So you can already playtest this stuff at your own table if you want to. The big benefit, of course, running with me is that I'll have firsthand information of how you guys use and abuse this system to see if there's anything that actually does need revisions. But I've been using that at my home table from level 12 and now level 20, from level 12 to 20 for the past year. And so far it's so good. It's working out well at the high ends. I'm really happy with it. I just need to make sure that I've got people that aren't already in love with my games and the way that I run games and the stuff that I build. I need some people that are a little separated from that to be able to abuse the system the way that they see it, for me to see how it plays and to get some feedback about how fun it is. So that's going to be our next step. Once the Spelljammer book that we work on Monday through Friday in the morning is done, then I'll have space, I'll have time in my budget to be able to put together the playtest content material and actually run a game on a weekly basis. I'm planning on 3 weeks at 3rd level and every level from 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So I'm looking at a 15-week run for the playtest content to see just, how it jives. But it's going to be a Hex Crawl West March style campaign. So people will be able to drop in and drop out. As we move along, I'm going to actually be building that campaign, the framework for that playtest campaign here on stream as well. Just so people can see how I think about building out systems and games, and and if it's something that you think is cool, then you'd be welcome to kick it on with me. So cheers. So what are we doing today? We're going to take a break real quick from working on another monk subclass, and instead we're going to look at the new tech that we have for the monk, which drove me to reassess the barbarian and to look again at the paladin and the ranger. So we're going to start with the monk. We're going to drop down. We'll start with the monk. We'll go up to the barbarian, and then we'll circle back around and drop into the ranger and the paladin. If I still have time left in my schedule for today's stream, then we'll build out a monk subclass. I plan on being back here. I have. What is this? Tuesday? Jesus, it's Tuesday. I have Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday lunches free. I'm not sure if I'm going to stream all 3 of those this week, but I'll be back at least once this week to work on more monks specific subclasses. So there you go. The mana system in general. For those that haven't already been indoctrinated over the past 85 episodes of this. Hey, we're building mana systems here. The core of the system itself here. Let's go ahead and be here at the front end, at our front table in this tab. Let's go. We're down here in the monk class features here. Let's take this tab and drop down like around page 40. Where are we at? Down here. Variant spellcasters, artificers, warlocks. Here we are, martial powers, and here's our list of powers. There's 140 some odd powers. I think it's like 146 right now, something like that. There's 5 disciplines broken into exploits, maneuvers, reactions, strikes, and sustained powers. There's ranks of power from level 1 to 4. Each rank requires 1 mana, so a 4th rank power requires 4 mana. We use half-casting progression, starting at 1st level with 1 rank, ending at 5 ranks at 17th level. There's a power die, which feels the same as a superiority die, as a martial arts die, as an inspiration die. The power die, depending on what kind of a power you're using, operates in one of those manners. If you're using an exploit to boost the results of skill checks, attack rolls, or armor class that you're dealing with in combat or during different social or exploration scenarios, the power die works like an inspiration die, in which it increases the result of the d20 die roll that you make. It's unique in that only 1 die is going to modify your die roll. So if you were to spend, say, 3 mana on a, say, gifted artisan while making an ability check, you can use the performance tool, artisan tool, or a musical instrument. Roll 1 power die per mana channeled, adding the highest result to your roll. So if we go back here, we're looking at, say, 9th level. You've got up to 3 mana, that's your max rank. So you can channel up to 3 mana at one time. So if you were to use Gifted Artisan and you were to spend 3 mana on it at 9th level, you're throwing a d8 die. So you'd roll 3 dice, you'd keep the top die, you'd throw away the other 2 dice, and you would add the result of that highest die roll to whatever your skill check, whatever your ability check result was, if that ability check could have benefited from the performance skill, an artisan tool, or a musical instrument die roll. So that's how an exploit works. However, contradictory to that, if we're looking at, say, a strike power, they work a lot like the smite spells that a paladin has. For instance, Thundering Strike. When you hit with an attack, like a smite or a stunning strike from a monk, when you hit with an attack, you can then spend mana to amp up the results of the effect. If you were to use, say, a Thundering Strike, your weapon can deal thunder damage and add 1 power die per mana burned. So at 9th level, you could burn 3 mana. You'd be rolling 3 8-sided dice to add to the result. Add 1 power die per mana burn to the damage. So it'd be an extra 3d8 damage that you would deal with 3 mana. And a creature up to 1 size larger than you is pushed back directly from you up to 10 feet away for each point of mana burn. So a 9th level character, you could spend only 1 point of mana to deal thunder damage and push a target 10 feet away from you if you wanted, or you could instead put 3 mana into it, deal an extra 3d8 worth of damage. It's all going to be thunder damage if you want, and then you can push them up to 30 feet away from you. As involuntary movement, they get shoved. You can have, as you can see up here, a character knows a number of powers based on their level. At 20th level, you'll know a maximum of 16 powers. Your mana pool is going to be based on whether you are, say, a hybrid channeler, which is like a paladin, ranger, or artificer. All 3 of those half-casting classes have a spell list of spells that they know. But in addition, instead of learning a spell, they can choose to learn any of these powers. And since powers only go up to 4th rank, by the time you get to 13th level, you have access to the full list of ranks, of the full list of all the powers, all 140 some odd powers that we currently have. But you can continue to grow. So, like, you could have, even though, like for example, we have a Banishing Strike. 4 mana, your weapon can deal force damage to increase the power die by 1 power die per mana burned. The creature is banished and incapacitated, making a wisdom saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect if successful. And then you would reappear in the same space as you had before, and blah, blah, blah. So all the extra banishing smite type language that would go into that. But it only takes 4 mana to use Banishing Strike, but at 17th level, you could channel up to 5 mana. So even though it only takes 4, if you put 5 into it, you would deal an extra 5. And at 17th level, you gain a d10. So if you put at 17th level 5 mana into it, it would be a total of 5d10 added damage that you would deal. Other things that you can do with mana: sustained effects require concentration. This will be relevant for this conversation. I've talked about this before. At 1st level, you could pick up, say, Blind Sense. It's a sustained effect, so you would maintain concentration on it. It doesn't have a duration, so as long as you can maintain concentration, you could keep Blind Sense active. The concentration check, basically anytime you make anytime you make a saving throw of any type of saving throw, or you take damage, the DC is going to be 10 plus total amount of mana being concentrated on, or half the damage taken from an attack, whichever is higher. So if you take 40 points of damage, your concentration check is going to be a Constitution saving throw, DC 20, just like spellcasters do. But like say you get hit with a fireball and the dexterity saving throw is, say, DC 14, and you are channeling, say, 5 mana to maintain a bunch of concentration effects. It'd be 5 mana tapped, so that's going to be a DC 10 plus 5 equals 15. If you roll a 14 on that DC 14 fireball's dexterity saving throw, even though the 14 is success against saving on the fireball, that 14 is less than the 15 required to maintain concentration. So even though you succeed the fireball, you're going to dump all of your concentration effects because you just failed your save. So you failed the concentration save. So that would dump your mana. If you don't, since you're a frontline, most of these guys are frontline fighters, these are the martial classes. If you don't want to risk losing your mana to just casual fire or saving throws, some BS reason, you can choose to lock that mana. And if you lock it, you no longer have to make concentration checks. You will not lose concentration on those sustained powers, but that effectively reduces the amount of mana that you can channel. So if you are, say, a 9th level character that can channel up to 3 mana, and you're maintaining concentration, or you decided to lock a sustained effect that requires 2 mana, like, for instance, what's a good one? What's a fun one we could choose? Let's go with Quick. While sustaining this power, you gain advantage on charisma and dexterity checks. So you can make an ability check. You would always roll with advantage for both charisma and dexterity checks while you're maintaining concentration on the quick effect. If you decide to lock the quick effect, it costs 2 mana. You're a 9th level character. That reduces your max channel limit from 3 down to 1 while that power is locked. So you wouldn't be able to, like for example, like Banishing Strike, right? That's a 4 mana ability. But if you've locked 3 channels, then you would only have, you wouldn't have the ability to channel up to 4 mana, so you wouldn't be able to use Banishing Strike. If you're 9th level, you've locked 2 channels, you've left 1 channel open. That means if you were to use Thundering Strike, you would only be able to add 1 point of mana because you only have 1 channel open. That's how you can control your risk. If you want to limit your die rolls so that you don't lose your mana when you blow a concentration check, it's going to limit how much power you can actually use at any given time. This affects powers. Spells don't get the lock channels like this. Only the martial powers that we're developing in this document allow for locking concentration effects. A spellcaster that we're using a similar, like the mana system we have, they always have a risk of losing concentration on their spells. Like if you have haste maintained, if you get dinged with haste, then you're going to lose your concentration like normal. You can't lock that haste option. It's going to remain open. You can lose it just like you normally would expect to. So that's the quick skinny, just a quick snapshot of how the mechanics work so you get it. And I wanted to mention strikes, sustained, and exploit powers specifically because those are relevant to the tech that we're playing with today. So the monk class features. So you gain a martial arts die. If your martial arts die is higher than your power die, you can use either one. It's up to you. At some point, like sometimes your martial arts die is going to be better than your power die. Sometimes the power die might be better than your martial arts die. It depends on how the game, what level you are, and whether WotC ends up changing what type of a die a monk uses once 2024 comes out. Because we'll be updating all of my mana stuff for 2024 once the new class concepts are released by Wizards. So you can either use your martial arts die or your power die, take your pick. If they end up having a D12 at 17th level, that's awesome. That's just added value. Art of mobility, we talked about this before. We talked about this last week, so I won't look at art of mobility again. Flurry of attacks, we talked about this before. It's a sustained effect. So if you wanted to lock a point of, you can always spend a point of mana to gain 2 attacks as a bonus action, right? Or you could choose to, at 5th level, you can lock the sustained flurry of attacks, and instead of burning 1 mana per round, you could choose to tap or lock. You can either maintain concentration or completely lock down 2 mana at 5th level. At 5th level, you have access to 2 mana. So if you were to lock this, you'd cut yourself off from like stunning strikes or any other key usage. But if you decide just to maintain concentration on it, then you'd still be able to do stunning strikes and stuff like that like you would expect it to. But while you're maintaining concentration on flurry of attacks, or while you are sustaining flurry of attacks, you can always make 2 attacks as a bonus action. Whether you made another attack that round or not. It's just a quality of life thing with a risk-reward measurement that goes into it. Much better value than what a single round of flurry of attacks would provide to you. But if you don't want to burn the mana, you're going to have to shut yourself off from channeling ki until you're a higher level. Like at 9th level, you could lock this and still have a point of mana open, right? That means that you'd be able to use stunning strikes consistently while you still have flurry of attacks going, and it wouldn't cost you shitloads of mana every round to do it. So that added value there for you. Here's the new tech that we're playing with that replaces the features that we looked at last week. Unlocked channels. So when you lock a sustained power, your max channel limit gained as a monk is not reduced, nor is the maximum amount of mana that you can recover. So while you, like I just explained, when you lock a sustained power, it reduces the amount of mana that you can channel. The monk is the exception to that rule. A monk does not reduce the amount of channel that you can sustain. So what does that mean? That means that a monk is going to want to load up on as many lock effects as they can. So like I just mentioned with that focus, with the flurry of attacks at 5th level, requiring 2 mana to lock it, it's not going to prevent you from using Stunning Strike or anything else. That stays open. Other classes like the Fighter, the Rogue, Paladin, Ranger, if they lock their channels, then they can't cast spells, they can't channel any other mana if they've locked down all of their levels. A monk never locks their channel. So a monk is rewarded for learning sustained powers. And again, you can learn up to 16 powers by 20th level. You start with 2. So at first level, a monk can learn a sustained power, lock it, and still have they can have that locked all day. So when they take a short rest, they can recover their point of mana, and they can do whatever it is that they want to with that point of mana. But once you pick out a sustained power, as I've discussed before in previous episodes, not only are there all these sustained things that you can do, but let's get to the right tab here. If we scroll all the way down, we also have a list of feats that you can learn instead of powers. So like a first level monk with only 1 point of mana here at the short rest, right? You only have 1 point of mana at first level, so what does that mean? You're going to lock your point of mana for a sustained power, and then the rest of the powers that you would know one more power. That means you can get a free feat. Basically, you can know a feat. And as you gain levels, again, you only have one rank that's open until 5th level. So if you wanted to, you could learn a sustained power, a first rank sustained power. You can lock that first rank sustained power, and by 4th level, you have 5 known powers. So you could have 1 sustained power and 4 feats. Or since your channels aren't going to be locked, you could learn a couple different types of sustained powers that you can swap in and out by spending a point of mana every time you switch out your power. And then you would still have a pocket of mana left over for you to do things like Thundering Strike or exploits that allow you to boost your ability checks or saving throws, attack rolls, stuff like that. So that's a lot of... Where'd I go? Where did I go? Oh, I bumped the thing. Hi. We're back. Okay, cool. I'm just checking my music. Yeah, so that's cool tech. You have first level strategies, learn a sustained power, and pick up a bunch of feats. That's very, like, you can take care of, like, by your first, second, by the time you, by any of these martial characters, by the time you get to 3rd level, you take your subclass option, you have a total of 4 known powers. You can easily kit out all of the feats that you need to know for your character's career with the type of weapons that you want to use. And from there on forward, all of your ASI, you can actually dump into stats, or you can start looking at other things that you want to spend mana on to be able to use as powers. But the feats takes off all the pressure of you having to manage a resource or even worry about it. For the flurry, like with the monk, the flurry of blows, you can lock that, the flurry of attacks, you can lock that in, and you'll always have that mana expenditure for you to be able to make 2 attacks with your flurry of, with your bonus action. That's high value added. So let's continue looking at other things that we have going on here. Let's see. Stunning Strike, it's considered a first rank exploit that can be channeled when you hit with a melee weapon attack. So when you make an attack, exploits can be spent at the same time as you're making attacks with strikes. Strikes, each discipline is basically a different track. So you can spend exploits. Like, you can boost up an attack roll when you hit. You can then spend a point on Stunning Strike, and you'd be able to spend a point or 2 or 3 or up to 5, say on Thundering Strike or Tripping Strike or Banishing Strike. You can do these things together. Since Stunning Strike is an exploit, you can spend that exploit alongside and with the strikes that you're doing. So you can ramp up your damage, and you can, in this instance, use Stunning Strike. So you're not losing anything. You're only gaining the option of spending mana to deal more damage if you choose. We also have the Whirlwind attack, which we looked at last week. So go check out episode 85 in the playlist to look at us running down all these different options and the way that we built out Way of Mercy and the Way of Shadow. Next will be the Ascendant Dragon if we get to it. So let's see here. That was the monk. So now when the monk, when you're a monk, you don't have to worry about when you lock mana, it doesn't reduce the amount of mana you can channel. That's a massive value that none of the other classes have. So that's a huge advantage. Like, why would you be a monk? Because you can channel a shitload of sustained powers and you aren't going to detract away from your ability to do other stuff. So let's then go visit the Barbarian at the front end of the list. We've talked about Barbarian a number of times, but we've made a change here. So, channeling Rage. When you're using martial powers, Rage gains additional benefits. While raging, you cannot maintain concentration. So if you channel a sustained power while raging, it automatically locks. However, locked powers also don't reduce the max rank you can channel gained as a Barbarian until your rage ends, just like with the monk. There are interesting parallels between the monk and the Barbarian. Most notably, I think the most obvious example of this pointed to is the path of the Zealot, which is often referred to as like almost like a religious fervor that the rage represents as like a cool concentration, or like a calmness that comes over to them, or the hand of their god is on their shoulder while they're raging, bringing them in extra power and in a berserker type energy to them. So while you're raging, you have to lock your channels. But while you're raging, those locked channels don't count against. So they're effectively you don't have to maintain concentration on sustained effects. But if your rage ends, all of those locked channels suddenly collapse, and you can no longer use that mana for anything else because those channels now become locked when your rage ends. So you can channel and you can use rage. You can use martial powers anytime you want. But when you rage, the channel's open, and you can maintain concentration and not be reduced in your rage. So that's also incredibly great value. So like people are like, why do I want to play monk? They're horrible. Why would I want to play a barbarian like after 8th level or 9th level? There's no value there. Well, if you stick with it through all 17 levels, you're going to end up with 5 ranks that you can stack effects on. Like for example, I don't think I mentioned this yet today. So if you take sustained powers, you can add up all of your sustained powers to your max channel limit. So at 17th level, you can channel up to 5 mana, which means you can have up to 5 ranks worth of concentration or worth of sustained powers combined. Which means like you could take Trap Springer, which is a 1st rank power, and add that to Close Quarter Combat, which is a 2nd rank power. That's 3 ranks so far. And then like if you're 17th level, you could put in another 2nd rank power, like say Giant Growth with 2 mana. That would end up being 2 levels to Giant Growth, so now you're size large. And then say you take Close Quarter Combat, which is all melee attacks gain the grappling strike power that we have detailed above, and you increase your grappling check by your power die. At 17th level, that's a D10, so you automatically always add a D10 to your grappling check. And then on top of that, if we say took, what would be a good thing to combine with that? For example, let's take, I don't know, Crouching Stance. When you channel this power, you gain the following abilities. You can crawl and stand from prone without requiring additional movement. Attacks made against you while prone by creatures within 5 feet don't have advantage. And you gain advantage on dexterity stealth checks while prone. So you're basically become an excellent jujitsu master by taking Crouching Stance combined with the word I'm looking for is Close Quarter Combat and Giant Growth. So you can now be a excellent grappling while your size large, and everyone loses disadvantage on prone, so in case you go to the groundwork. So like those are 5 things that a barbarian at 17th level could lock, and that wouldn't disrupt you from being able to use your channeling for anything else that you might possibly think of using it for, strikes, etc. Just so you guys know what grappling strike is. It's for melee attacks only. Your weapon damage increases by 1 power die per mana burned, and you automatically gain 1 rank by taking the Close Quarter Combat sustain power down below. So 1 power die per mana burned, and you can grapple creatures one size larger than you with the weapon, adding the highest power die result to your grappling ability check. The grapple ends when you choose to or attack another target with the grappling weapon if you're incapacitated or the grappling creature breaks free with a successful strength and dexterity saving throw. So that's how that works. So we're looking at the Barbarian. That was the change that we made for the Barbarian, that they can, while raging, lot channels don't reduce your mana supply, or don't reduce your max channel limit. Let's see, is that the only comment we had to make here? Yes. Okay, cool. So let's now scroll down to Paladin and Ranger. We'll look at the modifications that we made there, and it looks like we better have some time to actually work on some martial power stuff today. Some monk class progression. Let's dig through the monk, and paladin. Okay, so here's some paladin class features that we have. Channeling, mana. There you go. You gain 2 points of mana per level. That you can see. Let's flip these around. Powers here. Paladins, you gain 2 mana per level. You gain up to 40 mana at 20th level. Let's see some of the cool shit we can do with Paladin now. I'm looking forward to having this tested. So, let's see. Martial powers, you gain them, half casting progression. You can learn spells or powers. You can mix them up however you please. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can switch out your entire kit. All characters that have powers can switch out their entire kit of abilities every time they finish a long rest. Fighters, rogues, and barbarians, they can switch 1 power every time they finish a short rest as well. So they can learn or prepare a different power. They can swap one out. Paladins, rangers, artificers, those three, they can swap out powers when they finish a long rest and prepare spells for the day. They can prepare any number of powers instead of spells. And the Warlock can learn powers instead of invocations at the half casting progression. So a Warlock would be able to learn a 4th rank power at 13th level by spending an invocation to learn it. And they can change that invocation every time they gain a level. They can swap out what power, or they can take a different invocation if they wanted to. So hey Alan, it's good to see you, my guy. So here's some of the cool shit that Paladin gets. So keeping in mind again, Paladin has a half casting progression on a long rest. They have 2 mana per level. So let's break down Paladin here real quick. Channeling feature, mana, they can switch between spell casting and power. Your spell casting, your class feature, let's see, meow, casting, channeling, there we go. Starting at 1st level, you gain the channeling class feature. You can choose either strength, wisdom, or charisma to be your channeling ability score. Your channeling DC is 8 plus proficiency bonus plus channeling ability bonus. You also gain a pool of martial points called mana that you can learn, and you can learn martial powers. Down here, variant spellcasting with power. Starting at 1st level, instead of preparing spells, you can choose to learn a spell instead of a martial power. Paladins gain bonus spells from the Oath in addition to any powers or spells that you've learned. Using strike powers replaces the Divine Smite feature and all smite spells. When using Paladins with martial powers, remove these smite spells from the Paladin spell list. The number of martial points spent to cast a spell is equal to the level of spell cast, which is how the color mana spell point variant rules work as well. 1st level spell, 1 point of mana. 5th level spell, 5 points of mana. And again, martial powers only go up to 4th rank. So once you hit 13th level as a paladin, you have access to all of the different powers that you could possibly have access to. So once you get to 17th level as a paladin, if you have 5th level spells you want to learn, go for it. You already have access to your full kit of powers. So let's see what else we got going on here with the paladin. Here's the alternate class features. So check this out. Lay on hands, empowered healing. During your turn, you can burn mana to regain 5 hit points in your healing pool. So the way that Paladin works by default is... let's see. Lay on hands. Paladin level times 5, right? So you gain 5 hit points. It's your healing pool. You have a pool of healing power, and hit points equals your Paladin level times 5. So the way that we have this is you can, if you choose, during your turn, you can burn mana to regain 5 hit points in your healing pool, up to a maximum of 5 times your Paladin level. So if you spend healing points, you can then take your mana out of your mana pool and convert them into hit points in your healing pool. Next step, Divine Recovery. As a bonus action, you can spend hit points in your healing pool to regain mana. For every 5 hit points spent in your healing pool, you regain 1 point of mana. You can regain a number of points of mana this way each round up to your max channel limit gained as a paladin. So at first level, you can channel up to 1 point of mana. That means that as a bonus action, you can spend 5 points of mana to get, you can spend 5 points of hit points in your healing pool to get back a point of mana. You don't get hit points back in your healing pool until you finish a long rest. You need a creature, maximum chance, and poison. It has no effect on undead. Poison item, you have a healing pool. There it goes. And it replenishes when you take a long rest. So at first level, you have 5 points, which at any time you can convert into an additional point of mana. So if you don't have to heal anybody, you can burn that point to give yourself 3 mana instead of just 2 for the day. So cheers to that. What else can we do? This way each round. Alternatively, as an action instead of a bonus action, as an action, you can similarly restore spent mana for a willing creature that you touch. So you can take your healing battery, and instead of healing other people with lay on hands, you can give them mana back. And if you really wanted to, you could take your entire 40 mana at 20th level as a paladin. You can take your entire mana pool and convert it into mana that you can give to your sorcerer or your cleric or your wizard, or break them up amongst any of the other characters. Using this mana system, everyone is using the same mana point system. So you can replenish anybody's resources that you want across your entire team. Or you can just keep all those points to yourself. Hey, Shiner. Damn. The smites are going to be happy changing healing to mana. Yeah, no kidding. Well, I mean, every class can do smites. So it's not like the paladin loses all of its uniqueness using this power, using this system, because literally anyone can learn a strike power. But the paladin gets kickers. Yes, converting the healing pool into something that you can share or keep greedily for yourself to charge in more smite power, more divine strikes. That is a huge advantage. You're going to have a fucking huge battery to be able to do that stuff. And if that's all you want to do, you're going to love it because we have some extra bonuses for you. But at the same time, the paladin becomes very unique because they can heal other people's mana pools, which means that we have the ability to attack people's mana pools in the future too. If everyone in the game is using the same mana resource system, then you can have creatures and effects, spells, curses that treat people's mana pools as hit points. So we can now introduce a language of, I'm going to attack you, and I'm going to and if I hit you and you fail your saving throw, like I'll drain you of D4 plus 3 mana from your mana pool, for instance. You have to burn that mana. And if so that you can really fuck over your full casters. Like a sorcerer has 100 spell points or 100 mana at 20th level, right? So you can burn them down for a long time. And each of the classes have methods of being able to cheat in extra mana for themselves. So there's ways within ways, but that opens up a language for us to be able to attack it. And now the paladin as a base class can heal those points. And when we look at the bard, when we go back and we convert the spell point system for the 2024 update, we're going to be introducing language into the bard that you can burn inspiration die to give people mana back as well. So we'll have at least 2 classes that offer healing methods for characters to be able to deal with creatures that attack your mana pool. Fun resource. Fun resource. Let's keep getting after this, though. So that's just the Lay on Hands feature. Now we have Divine Strike, which replaces the Divine Smite feature at 2nd level. Starting at 2nd level, when you channel a strike... Okay, so we have access to strikes and mana at 1st level. So a Paladin can learn a strike at 1st level. You don't have a lot of mana to do anything with it, but you can learn one as early as 1st level if you want to. But starting at 2nd level... when you channel a strike power through a melee weapon attack, because you can make strikes with ranged attacks and thrown attacks, any kind of attack that you're proficient with a weapon, including unarmed strikes, of course, or natural weapons and teeth and stuff. It doesn't matter. If you're making an attack roll and it's not a spell, if it's any kind of a weapon attack or unarmed attack, you can use strike powers with it. So the Divine Strike, then, at 2nd level, through a melee weapon attack, you roll 1 additional die of damage equal to your power die. So you're automatically, if at 1st level you're only rolling power dice of d6s, so a Paladin would only start with a d6 at 1st level. I know that the Paladin in the player's handbook gets a d8, but at the tail end, the Paladin's going to get a d10 as well. So we're going to curb a little bit of the damage that they deal up front. It's gonna end up weighing out mid-tiers, and at the high end, they're gonna end up doing more damage. But then everyone can do this. So looking more at the Paladin again to make them extra special, they automatically get a free die of damage. Every time you spend a point of mana, like at 1st level you spend a point, you get an extra d6, plus whatever it is that you're going to embellish it with. Like you're going to spend a point of mana. Let's say you want to use Psionic Strike. When you deal... Psionic Strike's kind of boring. Let's go with Goading Strike's a good one. Your weapon damage increases by 1 power die per mana burn, so a Paladin would spend 1 point of mana, trigger Goading Strike. You would deal a d6 of damage, but because you have Divine Strike, you're going to add another power die for free, so you're going to do 2 dice of damage, 2d6 damage, and the Goading Strike does, the creature you strike has disadvantage on any attack made that doesn't target you. The effect ends if the target hits you. It can also attempt to end this effect at the end of each of its turns by succeeding an intelligence saving throw. So until it succeeds an intelligence saving throw, it is stuck with a disadvantage against anything other than you because you use the Goading Strike. But you could also use Freezing Strike to slow its movement. You could use Poisoning Strike to impair the poison condition onto the creature. Shocking Strike takes away opportunity attacks from the creature until the end of its next turn. Sweeping Strike, your weapon damage increases by 1 power die. You can choose a second creature within 5 feet of the original target and within your reach. If the original attack roll would hit the second creature, it takes damage equal to the total rolled on the power dice. So Sweeping Strike with a Paladin, you'd do a weapon damage plus 2d6 radiant damage, and then if you're using Sweeping Strike, then whoever's adjacent to that guy within 5 feet and it's within range, you can hit them, and they'll also take 2d6 damage. I think you guys kind of get it, right? So then, let's see. The damage can be radiant instead of the type listed, or the strike power. Like, for example, if you're using Shocking Strike, the damage is lightning damage. So while using Divine... there's no reason for you not to use Divine Strike. Every time you use a strike power, it's free extra damage. But it could be radiant damage. It could be, like, if you're using a spear, it could be piercing damage, or it could be lightning damage. You can choose those 3 types of damage depending on what you want, what's best for you. And then, like in this instance, it would have the shocking effect where you'd remove opportunity attacks from that creature. Let's continue. Let's look at improved Divine Strike, since that's where we're at right now. Divine Strike, add a power die. Improved Divine Strike, starting at 11th level, your Divine Power improves. Instead of adding an additional die of damage when you channel a Divine Strike, now all melee weapon attacks roll additional damage equal to your power die. The damage can be radiant or the listed damage type of the weapon. So at 11th level, looking at our table, at 11th level, you'd be rolling a d8. So every time you make an attack, you're automatically dealing an extra d8. And when you get to 17th level, that's going to upgrade to automatically dealing an extra d10 every time you hit somebody. Okay. So now we have, let's look at Channel Divinity, which modifies the Channel Divinity at 3rd level. Harness Divine Power, which modifies the Channel Harness Divine Power at 3rd level. You can burn 1 point of mana to regain use of your Channel Divinity. So normally a Paladin has 2 options for their Channel Divinity class feature, and they have 1 use of it per long rest. Per short rest and long rest. So anytime you take a short or long rest, you gain your 1 use of Channel Divinity back. Using this system, whenever you spend a point of mana, you get your Channel Divinity back to spend on either one of your Channel Divinity powers. We are now going to have to go through the list of all the Channel Divinity powers offered by Wizards of the Coast for the Paladin to make sure that's fair and balanced, that all those things be worth 1 point of mana. If we're finding somewhere along the lines it's not balanced for some reason, then we'll have to readdress it and look at it. But for now, as a testing space, that's a good place for us to be. So very soon, we're going to be spending a session on going through all the different channel class features and assessing, is it fair for us to be able to do that for 1 point of mana, considering that a Paladin can have at 20th level up to 40 mana. Because it's your Paladin level times 5 for your healing pool, and each 5 points of mana that you blow, you can get back. So that means that a Paladin blowing their mana pool can have as much mana as a wizard can, which is ridiculous. So yeah, Paladin gets pretty fucking sick. Let's see. Oh yeah, awesome class feature, Empowered Strikes. Beginning at 5th level, when you take the attack action and succeed with an attack roll, you can forgo your other attack to gain a temporary point of mana that you can channel as a Divine Strike. Mana in your pool can be combined with the temporary mana to increase the rank of Divine Strike up to your max channel limit. Any temporary mana not used during the attack is lost. For instance, if the first attack succeeds, you can, say at 5th level, let's just use the example. If the first attack succeeds, you can choose to forego the remaining attack, channeling 1 temporary point into a Divine Strike and gaining the additional power die of damage. A 9th level Paladin can add up to 2 additional mana for a 3rd rank Divine Smite. The first one is a free point of mana. You then invest 2 more points out of your own pool, so you're capping with 3 mana because that is your max channel limit at 9th level. Even though we gave you a free point of mana, that's still a total of 3 mana that you're channeling, so that's your cap. So you'd be doing 3d8 damage, costing you only 2 mana to do it, but then Divine Strike gives you a free point, an extra damage die as your Divine Power. So for 2 mana, you can do 4 dice worth of damage, but you have to sacrifice your second attack to do it. Or if you wanted to keep both attacks and potentially miss with the second one, if you miss with the first attack, you've got a second attack to make. Then you can blow 3 mana and get 4 dice worth of damage out of it. Cheers. If you hit with the first attack, you can spend 2 points of mana and get 4 dice of damage out of it. If instead you want to keep your second attack, maybe you want to divide your attack between 2 people. 1 point of 1 attack hits, you can spend at 9th level up to 3 mana, deal 4 dice of damage, and then your second attack, you could also spend 3 dice of damage, 3 mana to deal 4 dice of damage, so you can hit both targets for 4 dice worth of extra damage on each. Really fucking efficient, which puts them far ahead of what like a fighter could do or a rogue could do or a barbarian can do, but it's also allowing across the board everyone to be able to do a lot of damage during attacks. One of the biggest complaints in the game is that even though marshals are supposed to be the weapon experts and the hard hitters, almost all full casters can deal more damage than the martial characters. Having strike powers open to all classes for a resource cost goes a long way to help bridging that gap, that divide, so that you don't have to lean on the full casters dealing damage. They can be doing crowd control stuff. They can be saving their mana pool for exploration, divination, resource stuff, or they could be focusing on like area of effect stuff, or they could still be single target blasters. But this system is allowing our martial characters to have much more incentive to be relied on for doing that DPS, right? That damage per, or DPM, damage per round. Let's see, Aura of Protection, starting at 6th level. Oh, this is a optional. Optional class variant, Aura of Protection. Starting at 6th level, whenever you or a friendly creature within 10 feet of you must make a saving throw, the creature gains a bonus to the saving throw equal to your max rank of power gained as a paladin. So at 6th level, you can channel, you have a max rank of second, you have a second rank power. So at 6th level, you're granting a +2 bonus to saving throws to allies that are within 10 feet of you. If you multi-class out of Paladin at this point and like say put 14 levels into Barbarian instead, then you will eventually gain, because of multi-classing, you would gain access to 5 ranks of power overall. But because you bailed out of Paladin at level 6, you're stuck at second rank powers as a Paladin, which means that your saving throw, your Aura of Protection will never be better than +2. So that is going to incentivize you to stay inside the Paladin class all the way up to level 17 to gain full access to all your powers, to be able to ramp up the amount of hit dice, the amount of mana, the amount of healing pool that you have as a Paladin. So you have more mana being dumped into your character. There's a lot of synergy that you can gain out of staying a single class. Yeah, so there's that. Let's see, what other? Cleansing Touch modifies Cleansing Touch at 14th level. Charisma bonus per long rest. You can use, you normally only have the Cleansing Touch once. What is Cleansing Touch again? Cleansing Touch. Beginning at 14, you can use your action to end one spell on yourself or on one willing creature that you touch. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your Charisma modifier. You regain expended uses when you finish a long rest. Additionally, you can then spend 4 mana to regain use of this ability. Hey, what's up? Such a nice way to not make Paladins being so good at saving throws. Is it okay I use this idea with Aura Protection? Of course it is. This whole document is available for you to use right now. If you didn't know, hopefully you do, but if you didn't know, you can click on in the description down below. You go down here, you click on the playtest content and early looks in my Patreon. You do not need to be a member to have access to this stuff if you don't want to. I would certainly love your support if you think it's worth it, but scroll down here, playtest content, martial powers, click on martial powers. You'll now have access. This is read-only for you. So you can read the entire document and use as much of this as you want to. Pay particular attention I'm guessing you're a DM because you're saying about using it at your table, like you have the authority to just say to do that. If you're a DM and you want to start using stuff, you can scroll all the way down here to page. Well, here's all the magic items and how the power gear, how magic item work. That's down on page 64. So if you want to grant magic items, and beyond that, there's the random gear generator that we've already created for you just to whip up items on the fly. Here's a couple examples of some magic items that we already created. The Fell Hammer, Treads of the Mountain Goat. Those are just 2 examples, but we'll probably end up with like maybe 20 of them when we actually build the book. And then we have the DM section. We're still building out like creating themes. Like maybe you want to limit your rogue to only having like exploits and strikes for sneak attacks, right? And exploits to ramp up their die rolls when they're making ability checks. Maybe that's what you want to limit them to. Maybe you want to limit the Barbarian to sustained powers and maneuvers, for instance. And maybe you want to limit the Paladin to strikes and reactions. Maybe you want to limit the monk. Well, the monk should have access to all of them because it's the monk. But that would then make the monk more special compared to other martials because the rogue only has access to strikes and exploits. while a monk has unlimited access to all that stuff. So that gives you reasons to have differences between the different classes. And so this is an essay discussing options on limiting what those powers would be. Or like you can have secondary disciplines. So like if a barbarian wanted to learn an exploit, since you can swap out your entire kit of abilities every time you gain a level, if you wanted to limit what a barbarian, like for instance, if you wanted to limit what a barbarian has access to, and like say make reactions and exploits secondary disciplines, they can still learn all the exploits and all the reactions that they want, but instead of it costing them 1 power to learn it, it'll cost them 2. So a 20th level barbarian could learn 16 strikes, or like a combination of 16 strikes and sustained powers, for instance, but would only be able to learn like up to 8 exploits or reactions, because we're having a differentiation between what different types of powers. Like you can see here, monks, they have access to all disciplines. Any discipline, any power only costs 1 point to learn. And here's a breakdown. Like this is a way for a DM to say, hey, I like these ideas, but I want paladins to remain unique. So only paladins will have access to strikes. Okay, great. Then you're going to break these things up to other people in other ways. But also, furthermore, further down, and these are still works in progress, but if you wanted to abuse this stuff earlier on, creatures using power, using the 4E monster design philosophy of artillery, brutes, controllers, lurkers, skirmishers, soldiers, and solo creatures. Here's a default kit of powers that these different types of creatures can have access to. Like an artillery, stay at distance from heroes and harass with ranged attacks always. So they'd automatically have the ranged assault power. And in addition to that, every round, they could either use phase attack or make a bonus attack, or both if you decide. A bonus attack as a bonus action to make another attack. And if you want to use phase attack, it would then ignore cover. So you could do that once per round each. And then once per encounter, again, using 4E design philosophy, once per encounter, they could have double strike, which would allow them to use a bonus action to make 2 extra attacks as a ranged combatant. And once per encounter, they could use an exploit of, sorry, I spelled that wrong, bursting damage, which is basically when you hit a target, everything that's within 5 feet of the target that you hit also takes the power dice of damage. So we have pre-built kits for the type of role that the creature's playing in combat. Brutes are just giant bags of hit points that hit hard. So they can always use elemental resistance, and you can swap you can swap per encounter or per round, or as a bonus action what type of energy they're resistant to. Once per round, they can use a tripping attack, and as a reaction to tripping you, they can make an extra attack for free using the downtrodden reaction. Once per encounter, they can use goading strike to force your, like say your barbarian is going to get, or like if your rogue is doing, kiting stuff, you can hit your rogue with goading strike. He now has to make intelligent saving throws to get rid of the disadvantage. Otherwise, he's going to be forced to focus on that brute and not have disadvantage on the attack rolls otherwise. And if you can't have advantage, you can't use sneak attack unless somebody is somehow getting you advantage. So if you hit a rogue with goading strike, unless they're attacking you, they always have disadvantage until they break out of it, which means you're shutting down their sneak attack. So you can force a rogue to focus on the targets that you as a DM want the rogue to focus on by having them get dinged by goading strike or provoking strike. Because players are just as exposed to these things as monsters are, but there's things that characters can do to break out of effects easier. So it's a fun resource management risk system. And then, of course, stunning strike. A brute can hit you with, it's called disabling. We've changed the name. It's disabling strike now, which takes away, it doesn't stun you, but it takes away your actions and your movement and your reactions. But you don't gain extra, like you don't crit when you hit them, right? So that's the big difference between being disabled versus being stunned. A controller, they disrupt hero actions and control areas. Each of these have a basic kit built into them. But there's also a matrix here for you to determine the CR of the creature, determines the maximum rank of powers, the maximum amount of mana that they can channel at any given time as the maximum rank that they have access to, the die roll that they will roll when they're using ranks of power that would modify die rolls, and the number of powers that they can know in total. So you can just freewheel, just design on the fly creatures to challenge your team during your prep. So here we have an example of a soldier as a minion skeleton, which has bonus attack, which it basically grants it a second attack, and it has access to rogue stance, which means that instead of making an extra attack, the skeleton could instead dash, disengage, or dodge. So these are like really feisty skeletons, kind of like in the old Sinbad movie with the stop frame animation. Those skeletons were fucking mean. This was inspired by that. And then we have a boss fight for an ogre using the brute template. He has extended attack, which means he has an extra 5 feet of range, and as a large-sized creature, that means he now has a 15-foot reach. Restraining hold, which means if he grapples you with an attack up to 15 feet away, he's going to deal an extra 2d6 damage, and he's going to have you restrained while he's carrying you around, and he has the grappling strike sustained power, so every single attack he makes uses the grappling strike, which allows him to take advantage of restraining holds all the time. And then we have a T-Rex here as a solo boss that can hit targets that are moving inside of its area as a reaction. Grappling strike, when it bites you, it now grapples and restrains you. Tripping strike, it hits you with its tail and it trips you. So there's that. Now we even have a beholder, which has a mana resource because it's a magical creature, right? It's resilient, so it can make its saving throws. It adds power dice to its saving throws to resist stuff. Curse of exposure. When the beholder targets you, it can make you weak against its saving throws. It has a defense barrier. It can just erect an instant wall that blocks you from being able to target it with an attack, so you'll automatically miss, or it has a defense against any kind of AoE effect. It can trigger a telekinetic bubble, which is basically Tensor's resilient sphere on command. So it can hit you with that, and you have to break your way out of it using a strength saving, a dexterity saving throw to slip out of it. And then it also has regeneration. So even if you hit it and try to kill it, it can come back. So and then we have an ancient red dragon that has healing radiance, so it can heal itself on demand. It's got the bonus actions as a rogue. It can deal damage to any creatures that comes within reach of it. And as an ancient dragon, it's size gargantuan. So anybody that's within 20 feet of it is going to take D12 damage automatically every round just for being nearby. And it has thundering strikes, so if it hits you, it can push you away. But it's also hypertunistic, which means that it can take its multi-attack and divide its multi-attack into multiple opportunity attacks. So when it pushes you away, it can start hitting you with attacks while you get pushed, and it can become indestructible. So that means that it can, as a reaction, it can basically ignore all damage that round, and then it's on a recharge die. So when it rolls a 6 again on a D6 recharge die, it'll gain access to indestructible again. So these are kits that you can build for your creatures, and if people take a liking to these and there's interest, I can go through the entire monster manual once 2024 comes out. We can go through the entire book and we can build kits of powers unique, like maybe goblins and kobolds would have different strategies working together so that we would have different kits. Like a soldier kobold might look different from a brute kobold, which might look different from a soldier or a brute goblin. And we can build out all that stuff into a separate book if we wanted to, if people are interested in it. So you as a DM, you can implement all this shit right now, and this back in chapter is how to build these kits of powers for your creatures. So let's see, how are we doing here? We're just over an hour. I've got another 20 minutes. I got another 20 minutes left. So we've gone through the Paladin, the changes that we made to the class features anyway. So let's, again, what we'll need to do in our upcoming episodes is go through all of the channel divinity features that the Paladin gets to make sure that we feel they're worth 1 mana. If they aren't worth 1 mana, if we're finding that they're worth 2 mana, then we'll just change this to when you harness power, you can burn 1 mana to regain the use of channel divinity. If we find that they're worth 2 mana, then we'll just change this to when you can do it for 2 mana. You can get your Power Divinity back for 2 mana, or you can choose to get rid of your Channel Divinity to get 2 mana back instead. So there's that, or Protection you already took control of. Cleansing Touch, there you go. So we'll go through, oh yeah, and the Oath Capstone. Once per long rest, you have your alternate form that you can transform into once per long rest. If you blow 5 mana, you can use it again. So there you go. Ranger, let's look at the Ranger, and then we'll be done with our updates and we can go back to our normal scheduled program. I love the Ranger. So channeling class features, you have the channeling feature, you have your stats, you strength, dexterity, or wisdom bonuses for your saving throws. You can mix and match spell casting with powers as you please. You have hybrid points, which you get back pretty much on demand. You get your hybrid point, which goes up to 40 at 20th level. What's our cheats and fun stuff that we can do with this? Spell casting, so you can swap out all of your spells and all your powers whenever you finish a long rest as a prep caster or a prep channeler. So that's a glow up compared to 5e, but I think Rangers are going to get prep casting in 2024 anyway. So let's see, fighting styles. We have unique Ranger fighting styles. There are a few fighting styles that a Ranger gains access to. Let's go here to Ranger, creating a Ranger, table, hit points, proficiencies, favorite enemy, natural explorer, fighting styles. So normally, you as a Ranger would have access to archery, defense, and dueling. Fighting styles. Rangers have a short list of fighting styles they can choose: archery, defense, and dueling. Martial Powers provides 2 additional fighting styles unique to Rangers: dual wielding and ranged prowess. You can choose one fighting style at 2nd level, and you can spend feats or powers gained as a Ranger to learn from these fighting styles as well. So you can pick up both dual wielding and ranged prowess if you want them both as powers that you learn. And again, you gain up to 16 powers at 20th level. So let's see, what do they do? Dual wielding. Dual wielding replaces 2-weapon fighting. When dual wielding weapons, you can use any two one-handed melee weapons you're proficient with or unarmed attacks without penalty, using the attack action with one weapon and a bonus action with the other. Starting at 6th level, when using extra attacks, you can choose to attack with either weapon. So you would, at 5th level, you have 2 attacks as your action, and you've got dual wielding for a bonus action. You can freely mix between, as long as one of those attacks is your offhand weapon, you can make 2 attacks with one weapon and 1 attack with the other as you please. Starting at 11th level, when you hit with a weapon attack, you can use your bonus action to automatically hit with the 2nd weapon, combining the damage dice and bonuses of both weapons together. If the attack is ranged, both weapons must be thrown to benefit from this option. So there you go. Instead of making another attack with a bonus action at 11th level, you automatically hit with the weapon that you would normally make your offhand weapon. So if you have 2 flame brands, bap, you hit with both of them. And then you deal damage with both of them. And the extra magic damage dice that go with them. There you go. So that's dual wielding. And then we have ranged prowess. And again, you have to stay starting at 6th level as a Ranger. You have to be 11th level as a Ranger to gain this benefit. That's a pretty damn good glow up. Ranged prowess, starting at 6th level as a Ranger. This isn't the right language to use, but I'm using it for now. I'll have to find better language for this. When you gain 11th level as a range, I don't know. Yeah. So ranged prowess. You can channel strikes through ranged weapons at normal range and thrown weapons at far range. Okay, so normally You can't channel strikes through ranged weapon attacks like crossbows, longbows, short bows, slings. These are ranged weapons. You can't use power. You can't use strike powers like smites, right? Strikes. You can't use strikes with ranged weapons unless you're a paladin, or there is a sustained power that costs you mana to use, and it is called. Let's see. Oh, we're up. Sorry. Range Skirmisher. While sustaining this power, you gain the following. So this is a 1 mana feature, right? It's a 1 mana sustained power. Anyone can have this. Where was it? Range. There we go. Range Skirmisher. When sustaining this power, which you could lock, of course, you gain the following abilities. Strikes can be channeled when you hit a target with a thrown weapon at far range. Normally, a thrown weapon can only channel a strike power if the target is within normal range. But by using Range Skirmisher, the thrown weapon could be at far range. And strikes can be channeled when you hit a target with ranged weapons if they're within normal range. And you can create temporary non-magical weapons or ammunition for ranged weapons of your choice while making a thrown or ranged attack, which disappear after you finish the attack. So by maintaining this sustained power, you can create ammunition at will and fire it, and you'd be able to target with a ranged weapon attack targets that are within normal range of your ranged attack. This is going to cost you a point of mana. If you lose concentration, the mana burns. You have to then spend another point of mana to re-channel the sustained effect, costing you action economy. Or if you lock it, it reduces your max channel limit by 1. So you have to be at least 5th level to even be able to channel any strike powers in the first place, because channeling a strike power costs at least 1 mana. So if you're 1st level and you picked up a Range Skirmisher, you're either going to risk losing your 1 point of mana per day because it's sustained and you can lose concentration on it, or you're going to lock it, and the only thing you can do with it now is have unlimited ammo. Until you get to 5th level, if you lock this, then you still would then only have 1 channel of mana open for you to channel first rank strikes with only 1 mana, because your 2nd rank you locked with Range Skirmisher. However, the Ranger can channel strikes through ranged weapons at normal range and thrown weapons at far range. So you automatically, other than the unlimited ammo, you basically gain the Range Skirmisher feat power. But starting at 6th level, you can make opportunity attacks with thrown weapons and ranged weapons against targets within 10 feet of you, as though you're wielding a melee weapon with the reach property. So when you're doing opportunity attacks, your short bow basically becomes a reach weapon. Or if you're throwing daggers or axes or whatever, javelins, anything within 10 feet, you can make opportunity attacks against them. Starting at 11th level, as though you have the weapon reach property. So if you have anything that can exploit reach property, you can lean into that. Starting at 11th level as a ranger, ranged attacks score a crit on a roll of 19 or 20, and you can channel strikes through ranged weapons at far range. So at 11th level, you have to stick with ranger until 11th level to be able to hit things with basically smites at 600 feet away using a longbow, and you'll crit on a 19 or 20. Crits don't come easy in this system. This is the only example in the entire book of a character getting better crit economy, because crits are so fucking good with strikes. It's a ton of damage. So we aren't allowing people opportunity to gain extra crit. However, it's arguable that paladins would have access to that. It's arguable that maybe barbarians should have access to that. But as it stands currently, only the ranger is the only one that's gained the increased crit range. There's more. Mark of Prey. This replaces Hunter's Mark spell. It also replaces the Favored Enemy spell, and it replaces the Favored Foe optional class feature. Starting at 1st level, you gain 1 point of temporary mana. It's basically a point of free mana. That can be used to mark a creature that you can see. as your prey. You can see. They just have to be within sight. As your prey during your turn using a bonus action. You gain advantage with attacks, as well as intelligence investigation and wisdom, insight, perception, and survival checks made against your chosen prey. You gain 1 temporary point of mana to channel a strike power when you hit your marked target. You gain a temporary point of mana to strike every time you hit a strike, a mark of prey. And you can combine that mana with your pool up to your max channel limit. So starting at first level, you're automatically getting free mana to use strike powers as long as you're marked prey. So you basically get infinite mana in 1 mana point chunks for your entire career as a ranger, starting at level 1. That is incredible value. And then you can, again, it's a free point of mana, and you can combine it with your pool. So like at 9th level, you can channel up to 3 mana. You only have to spend 2 of those mana to get 3 dice worth of damage as a ranger. The mark can be sustained, or you can lock it. So by the time you hit 5th level, you can lock Mark of Prey, and you'll forever get that free point of smite damage. While sustained, you can use a bonus action to mark a different creature as your prey. So while you're sustaining this effect, as a bonus action, you can mark a new prey. If you can use your bonus action this way immediately when you hit a creature with a bonus attack, with a weapon attack, applying any additional attack effects gained by Mark of Prey to the target. So at 5th level, you lock Mark of Prey, you get 2 attacks, you hit the first creature, you hit him, so you automatically get to put at least 1 point of mana into a strike. If, say, that kills that target and you have another attack open, you can then use your bonus action to switch the Mark of Prey when you hit that second target, dealing an extra point of free mana damage to automatically apply a strike to them. You can use this feature once, regaining it. You can use Mark of Prey once, regaining it and the point of temporary mana when you finish a short or long rest, or when you burn a point of mana to regain it sooner. So you're always getting a free, you can spend a point of mana to get a virtual point that you can spend at any time to trigger Mark of Prey. You can continue spending mana to regain Mark of Prey if you need to, but at a certain point, you're probably going to want to lock it, just because it's really fucking good. Starting at 7th level as a ranger, or maybe it's a 7th level ranger. Maybe that's the way that we're supposed to be wording this stuff. Probably not. There we go. Starting at 7th level, when you lock Mark of Prey, it can be sustained while you're unconscious and during a long rest. The prey must make a wisdom saving throw versus your channeling DC at the end of each 24 hours to end the effect. Starting at 13th level, you can mark a different creature as your prey as part of an attack without using the bonus action. So that gets really sweet. And at that point, you can channel 4 mana. 13th level as a ranger. As a ranger. Death Mark. 20th level. While Mark of Prey is locked, at 10th level, at 17th level, you have a D10, right? So the Death Mark at 20th level, the capstone feature for the Ranger, becomes, while Mark of Prey is locked, add D12 to the attack and damage rolls you make, as well as intelligence investigation and wisdom, insight, perception, and survival checks that you make against your prey. Add 1d12 to the attack and damage rolls you make. So anytime you target something with Mark of Prey, you're going to add d12 to your attack roll. And if you hit, you're going to add d12 to the damage. In addition, if you choose to channel a strike power to damage your prey, your power die is a d12. So you'll automatically get a free point of mana as your strike power as a benefit of Mark of Prey. That free point of temporary mana will be a d12. You can add an additional 4 mana to it if you want to. to juice that up to 5d12 damage. Plus, you get the extra free damage die just for death mark. So you'll be doing a total of 6d12 damage for 4 mana, but that's at 20th level. So that's a decent capstone feature for dealing damage. And then we have a shitload of things that you can do with Conclave. So your ranger is still going to be limited to only 40 mana overall. But they're gaining basically a free. They can make a strike every time they make an attack. Multiple attacks per round. Every time they make an attack. And keeping in mind, as a bonus action with dual weapon, they have 3 attacks per round, assuming that target stays alive. And by 13th level, even if the target dies, as a bonus action, you can just automatically switch over. Whenever you make an attack, you can just switch your attack over to that next target. If you decided, for instance, to pick up a sustained power, I don't know, flurry of attacks. While sustaining this power, you can use a bonus action, including the bonus action used to sustain this power, to make 2 weapon attacks. So that's at 3rd level. At 9th level, a ranger can make 4 attacks per round, 2 with the attack action, and then that's a sustained power. So while you sustain this power, it costs 3 mana, it's expensive, but it'll give you 4 attacks per round, which every time you hit with Hunter's Mark, or a Mark of Prey, is going to give you a free power die of damage to deal strikes with. So you get however many attacks a day you make is essentially how much free mana you get. Unlimited. So pretty sweet. So those are the things that we got going on right now. And so what we'll need to do next in our design space is, again, go through all the Oath Channel Divinity features to make sure that they're worth the mana cost of 1 point. And when we continue again, we will pick up, once we're done going through those, we'll come back here to the monk and we'll build out the kit of powers that they gain. There you go. So that's the stuff that we got going on. Where are we at? We're at 127. So that's 90 minutes of spin time. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for today, but I just wanted to share these updates with people to see the kind of advantages that they gain. Yeah, Rangers have less. I would say out of all of them, Rangers have, over the course of the day, Rangers have less mana provided to them overall. But they also are the ones that can use a longbow to hit a target 600 feet away and smite them for, 5d10 damage or 6d12 damage or however much it's going to be at those upper ends once you get there. And keep in mind, I mean, when I play D&D, I go from level 1 to 20 in about 200 to 250 hours. My current team has a ranger and a rogue that both use this, and they're both 20th level now. So, fucking sick. I'm loving it. As a DM, I am loving this because they are setting the pace of how quickly they want to plow through targets, which allows me to do things like have minions that have enough damage that they can die in one hit if they're dumping mana into killing them. If they don't, they can take 2 or 3 hits. So I can pace out the amount of damage that minions or NPCs or creatures can take, knowing that they can deal this extra damage. So it allows me to control the flow of combat a lot easier, knowing that they can chew through enemies quicker if they want, so I don't have to get bogged down with specific targets. But they're going to kill off these targets in like 1 or 2 rounds, so I have the opportunity to do a bunch of cool stuff like bubble them, goad them, trip them, push them. I can make them interact with these creatures a lot more because both of them are using powers against each other at the same time. A lot of fun stuff. So that's where we're at for today. I'm going to come back. Tomorrow's Wednesday. I got Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday available for lunches. So let's see about me coming. Let's see. I'll be back tomorrow at lunch. I'll probably do martial powers. I'll probably do more martial power stuff tomorrow. We'll come back and we'll start going through the Paladin. On Thursday, if we haven't gotten done with the Paladin, we'll finish going through the Paladin Divine Channel features on Thursday, and we should be done by then. Which means that on Friday we'll switch back to doing more monk stuff. So we'll be here doing martial powers at lunch through the rest of the week. So Shiner, hey, thanks a lot for hanging out, guy. I hope you guys are excited about this stuff. I'm really looking forward to doing the playtesting from 3rd to 7th level in the new year once the Spelljammer book is done. So keep an eye out for that. And I'll be back tomorrow morning to do more Spelljammer artwork. In the morning, we're doing exploration art right now. And then I'll be back at lunchtime, about the same time tomorrow, to work on the Divine, the Channel Divinity class feature for the Paladin. So I will see you guys then. Thanks a lot for checking this stuff out. Be welcome. Again, check out the playtest document. It's here available for you. All you got to do is go down here and click on the Patreon link. And the Patreon link will take you to my Patreon page. And you can then scroll down here to the martial power system. You can check out the in-command system too if you want, but it's still a work in progress. But the in-command, and then we have playtest content for martial powers. There you go. You click the martial powers button. It'll take you to the same document that we've been using. It's read-only for you, but it's got all 70-some-odd pages available for you guys to look at. That's it. Now I'm actually out. I will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks a lot for being here. And I'm trying to get to 500 subscribers. So if you're new to the channel and you think this shit's cool, consider becoming, hey, I already picked up another subscriber. Thank you, whoever. And I'll see you guys on the other side. Thanks a lot.